Alright guys, Scrappy again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far, and there has been a major development after much speculation as to what the next major domino would be to fall, and with Shotzzy a couple of days ago suggesting there was a major move potentially being operated on behind the scenes, which was not yet public. This may well be what he was referring to. Vegas Falcons not looking to just get Cellium, but looking to double down and pay an awful lot of money to potentially get Scrap off LA Thieves with the biggest buyout in the history of the Call of Duty League. Is Nadeshot and the team at Thieves going to accept this offer? Because if they do, Scrap has nothing he can do about it, even though he is very clear he wants to stay with the Thieves. What are Falcons cooking up for 2026? Very much enjoy to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. We have an awful lot to discuss. We're going to start here. Bit of drama in the tier 2 side. Cruz was talking about the amount of players retiring. We saw Hixie step away. We talked about it this morning. We'll see a quick update on that actually here in a second. And he says, look, stop playing year after year. After this year, it's only going to get worse if the ecosystem continues on this path. Eventually, there'll be no tier 2, and the game will die out of the hand of Daniel, say, Beast Legend, he says. So this tweet was blowing up, and I understand it. At the end of the day, if you look at pretty much any esports, the tier 2 scene, apart from some rare exceptions, is a bit of a mess. It's not unique to Call of Duty, and not to say it's good, right? I'm not going to defend the way that things are right now. There's definitely many steps they could take to make the tier 2 ecosystem better and stronger, and frankly, we need it to be if we're going to continue to have generations of talent coming through and being able to find players like Mercules more often than we presently are. But having said that, there is still a decent amount of money on the line in Challengers COD, and maybe more so than you see in other esports, the way that they operate things. And Ben says, look, it's not really Daniel's fault. Yes, he's the CDL commissioner, but he says at the end of the day, this decision comes from up high. C-suite executives at any publisher not understanding the value of tier 2 and a path to pro from tier 2 to tier 1, not just a CDL issue, it exists elsewhere. Like, it's not great, it should be better. Who's at fault? How can we improve things? Maybe it's going to take a man like Charlie Hixie to step into the mix. So Hixie did a tweet, of course, to announce his retirement, and then he said this afternoon, following on from yesterday, I'm looking to stay within esports and use some of my expertise and experience that I have accrued. He's got a first-class honours degree in video game design and production, and of course spent 6 years competing in Call of Duty, making a finals of the World Championship, winning an event earlier in the Modern Warfare 2 season. Anyone who knows me would concur that I've wanted to do more after playing, and I feel as though I've got the skills and the mindset to do better than I was as a player. Not hard, he says. Now, I thought that was kind of funny, but also I think Hixie to some degree undervaluing his own level and his own ability. As I say, the amount of players who have made a Call of Duty League, World Championship Grand Final is very limited, and the number of players who have won an event is also an extremely competitive list. So I think Hixie should give himself a bit more credit as a player, but also good communicator. Definitely, I think, smart guy, lots to bring to the scene. That's what I said earlier today. I'm not massively surprised that he retired. I think it makes sense if he's a smart guy. Retiring with the current state of the scene makes sense in tier 2, given his potential future prospects as a competitor. But it felt like he had more to give to the scene, whether that was as a coach or in some other capacity. That's what I mentioned today. And he reckons that maybe there are other opportunities, let's say from a more, I don't want to say managerial perspective, but let's say advisor or consultant work. And look, if Hixie was to get picked up and listened to by some of the top guys in the C-suite and Activision, we would probably have a far better ecosystem with the lag time considered. Something to think about. I might be starting to push that Hixie propaganda. We will see. Now, let's talk about Nastie. These are the top 20 players of the season. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because we've got lots else to discuss. Just going to quickly go through the players in the top 20 so far. So everyone pretty much voted on this. We got coaches, I voted in it, number of the community members, content creators voted in this poll. They put together their top 20 players in order. You guys can see the stats, and also you can see the average voting position. So for example, Ghosty was averaging 17.9, Drazah a 16.7, aBeZy a 16.6. So very close between them. aBeZy ended up 16th, Real was 15th, and those are the ones that we have had announced so far. But let's get back to Rostermania, right? Because that's what you guys are all here for. Now, we didn't know what was going to happen next. Earlier today, we talked about Cellium seemingly going to Falcons. It appears that he's taken the bag over whatever Thieves were offering him, which was probably reasonable, but not on the same level. And maybe Cellium was told something kind of interesting, because Cell might have said to Falcons, well, yeah, I appreciate the money, it's a nice offer, but I would kind of like to go and play with Scrap and HyDra. And maybe Falcons come back to Cell and say, maybe we do both. Maybe we give you the bag and we give you Scrap and HyDra. I don't know. Probably not HyDra. We'll get to that in a second in the implications for the Thieves. And if you're a Thieves fan, I think understandably you'll be feeling a little bit concerned this evening. Now, Sib did this tweet, which I thought was kind of interesting, refusing to shake hands and just wandering off. Now, I don't know where Sib's going to go. It feels like he's trying to have conversations with these top teams, but for now, Sib is just a little bit too far down the pecking order to really be considered. There are other bigger name ARs out there that are going to be signed or locked down before people go to Sib and decide to figure out what he's up to. So maybe he stays at Cloud9, maybe he does not. But after what we saw with Cellium getting offered a bag by Falcons and apparently accepting it, it has now put into question what it means for the league. This was, as we discussed ever since the Falcons came in, an inevitability. At some point they would get the checkbook out, effectively an unlimited bankroll, and they would just decide what they wanted to do with it. Even Benjay said last night that, look, even with OpTic, and as attractive as OpTic are, there may come a point where Falcons could offer so much that it would be a conversation. Shotzzy even said on stream that someone would have to offer him millions to make him leave OpTic, but, you know, if Falcons offered him millions, then it would be something to consider. So Benjay says, I think it's clear at this current moment, no one else is going to outbid Falcons when it comes to salary. That's no real surprise, and you would presume that OpTic would still be the chief candidate if, you know, let's say you could join any team. OpTic is still the one that you would join. But I will say the developments of the last couple of hours here maybe even throws the OpTic situation into some degree of question. I don't think OpTic are going to make a change. I don't think they should. But with Simp on the market, maybe there was a conversation to be had, but after the results of the last two events, understandably that they would stick together. If Scrap and maybe HyDra are back on the market, then maybe, you know, I don't know if OpTic are going to reconsider their position as of today. I don't expect so, but when things are this chaotic, you know, we've not seen a Rostermania like this in a very long time. So Ben says it's been a big paradigm shift, and that is not going away. He also says that essentially next year's off-season is going to boil down to whether the OpTic juice outweighs the Falcons bag. Now, this was presumably in the context of Scrap and HyDra staying on Thieves this year and then being available next year. And this is why this Falcons bag opportunity for the Thieves is additionally compelling, because Scrap and HyDra have had 1 year of their 2-year deal. Next year, Falcons are going to offer them a lot of money if they don't get them now. Maybe Gentlemates are going to offer them a lot of money if they don't get them now. And OpTic, who knows what season OpTic have, but if they don't win champs next year, they may well consider getting Scrap or HyDra then. So Thieves are going to have a lot of competition to keep hold of those guys. And this is the debate that Thieves currently have to answer. Is it worthwhile keeping those guys and then potentially losing them on a free at the end of this upcoming season? Obviously annoying the fans in the process if you were to get rid of them now, but cashing in an insane bag for a buyout, which you're not going to be able to get next year because the buyout will not be a thing if the contract runs to a conclusion. But people are wondering, what are Falcons going to do? Who are they going to partner Cellium with? Who's going to be their AR? Is it going to be Sib, like we thought they were getting? Prid reveals that maybe even Kenny was an option before the World Cup. Could he be an option again now? Maybe, but also maybe not. So Jake Hale implies that, yeah, there was something going on today. We then got a tweet here from 04. We then got Ghosty in the replies talking about dominoes starting to fall, and here we go. We then start to get it talked about on stream. So Enable had a few words to say, then Zuma doubled down and says that as far as he's aware, it's not really about HyDra, it's more so about Scrap. I guess the feeling from Falcons is, and maybe they can even try and get both, but, you know, the feeling probably is, like, we've got Pred, he's our star SMG, you know, the supporting cast might be someone like aBeZy, not a bad supporting cast, but might fit the mold over there. But if you're bringing in Cellium, why not try and complete an absolute super team, or maybe keep Exnid around as well? It doesn't feel like Exnid is going anywhere based on what we have seen, and even at the start of the video, Exnid's still been doing tweets like this, and it feels like Falcons are going to continue to build around him. And then Ronnie drops the bombshell himself and says, yes, Falcons are targeting Scrap. This is no ifs, buts, or maybes. This is a fact. Falcons want Scrap if the money is right for them and for the Thieves. So I'll share those couple of clips here in a second, especially what Scrap had to say in response. But yeah, Ronnie says straight up, they're now looking to partner Cellium with Scrap. And, well, you can read this last sentence here, with questions on Thieves around Ghosty, around Envoy, still on uneven footing is Envoy, and Ghosty's been officially, you know, released, basically, not released, but he's been dropped, right? He's been given permission at least to explore. A buyout for Scrappy would shatter the record for the highest in Call of Duty history. Any potential move would come at a major cost. So, the Falcons want to put up the money that it might take to make this happen. Scrap says in this clip that, you know, this is a thing, you know, it's absolutely possible. He believes that it's not going to happen. I think even Ronnie says in the article that it's highly unlikely, although a deal remains highly unlikely. He doesn't think that they will be able to come to terms. You know, Falcons want him for a price. Thieves may not be willing to let him go for that price, and Falcons may, you know, they might not go too crazy with the money that they're offering. You know, if they offer $1 million to buy Scrap, you've got to think Thieves are selling him, right? But maybe that's way too much, and probably it is. So, you know, that's the debate that's currently ongoing, and this is what Scrap has to say.
Money over the team. Because, like, what? Right now, the team is Pred, Xnid, MC. The rumor team?
Oh, this fucking shot again, bro.
I mean, I heard that they were targeting some... They were trying to get some players that are on LAT right now. So, you know, who knows? Well, I don't know
I'm
what...
surprised no team came that far in the fucking zone.
LAT's plan is.
Oh, he's leaking.
Also, fuel... It sucks, man, but
hey, y'all want me to add some context to this? Bro? I heard that they're only looking at one person on that team. I heard they're only looking at one person on LA Thieves, which would leave one person there stranded by himself, losing fucking composure. You know what I'm saying? Which would leave one guy on Thieves by himself, losing absolute fucking composure. Stimmy coming in over the 10 bomb. Give it up for Stimmy the building. Stimmy, think of it a 10 bomb. Stimmy, think of it a 10 bomb. Just put it this way. I'm sure you guys can figure it out with the rolls. No, guys, I think it's the other way around, guys. I think you guys have it backwards, chat. I think guys have it backwards. I heard they're interested in Ernie. There, I said it. I heard they are. I heard they're interested in Ernie. You know what I'm saying? I think they're interested. I think they're interested in Ernie. Now,
that's what I mean.
Hey, after I heard the numbers that I'm fucking hearing, yeah, you're gonna need something nice over there. You're gonna need something nice.
$1.5 million minimum.
You know what I mean?
Bonus.
Hey, you get $1.5 million right now. You leaving?
100%.
Absolutely. Oh man, yo, Ernie, is this true? Are the rumors true?
They are true.
Wow, bro. Wow.
This doesn't mean I'm going, though. I'm not going.
You might not have a choice. These might be like, motherfucker, they just offered $1 million. We'll see you later.
They could.
These literally could just sell you and be like, Ernesto, have a good day.
Off. We got $1 million.
100%, bro. 100%. You're teaming with fucking MC and AG, I think, bro. And Xnid. Yo, that's your squad for next year.
Yeah, no, but if they sell me, I'm robbing Nade's house at night.
You're gonna rob him?
Yeah.
All right, absolutely. He's saying a rob nation. Look, hey, dinner on Ernie, Chad. Dinner on Ernie.
So it does make you wonder what this rumoured buyout number could be. Scrap just said a couple of days ago that FaZe offered Toronto 400 racks to get him a couple of years back. Toronto said no to that, and maybe that was wise, maybe that was unwise, depending on your perspective. So if Scrap was considered to be worth 400k to buy out of a contract with 1 year left a couple of years back, you got to wonder what Falcons are offering now. And the difficulty is for Thieves is that Ronnie literally said in a Twitch chat the other day that they don't have much money, right? And it makes sense. They spent a lot to form that super team this season. They spent a lot to buy Scrap and HyDra, pay their wages. Nadeshot took a massive pay cut to make that happen. They also had to get a facility in Texas to keep the guys happy as well, so they didn't go to Gentlemates. Lots of expense for Thieves. They could get all of that expense back and more by just selling Scrap right now. And that's the business case, right? Like, if you are making the decision on Thieves, it's actually very compelling if the money is right to just sell Scrap. Because, you might lose him anyway after next year. There's a good chance you lose him anyway. Go to OpTic maybe, go to Falcons anyway after this season, maybe other options as well, depending what the bottom line situation looks like. You're never going to be able to sell him for more than you're going to be able to sell him right now, presumably, right? Like, so this is the opportunity. If you want to pull the trigger, this is the time to do it. And, you know, you could get so much money back that it would pay for loads of salary and it would, you know, recoup all of the expense they had. And then maybe you could double down on HyDra. But then maybe HyDra wouldn't want to stay. If Scrap gets bought out, what happens to HyDra? I thought that was going to be a duo for some time. Maybe Falcons buy both. Maybe HyDra goes to Gentlemates, right? Like, you know, definitely they would want HyDra. That's 100% their plan to build around him for the future. Maybe they could give him a load of money. So it would put Thieves in a really awful spot, right? Like for their fans, at least from a competitiveness perspective, it would put them in an awful spot. But you can understand the business case behind this. Jake Hell says that he doesn't see it happening unless there's an absolutely biblical buyout for Scrap. And maybe there's other alternatives that they could take. But you could see why this is no doubt compelling for Thieves to look at the numbers and say, damn, like it's probably, you know, may never get as good as this. We bought Scrap for a lot of money and we're going to be able to sell him for way more after a year of his services and winning a couple of championships on a team that, yeah, it worked, but the egos, the complacency maybe got a little bit out of control when it mattered in the biggest tournaments. And yeah, you don't want to let Falcons form an unbelievable scary super team, but maybe Thieves will feel like from a business case perspective, they don't really have much other option. And we know that Falcons, if they want to extend an offer and they want to bump those numbers up, they are able to do so. This is the team that they might be looking to form. Pred, Cell, Scrap, and presumably Exnid remaining as the fourth would be controversial. I mean, man, it's kind of come out of nowhere, the idea that Scrap could potentially be gettable. And as I said a few minutes ago, if Scrap's maybe going to get sold, if maybe a HyDra could be available, you know, it raises some questions on whether every single team has to have a conversation about it, right? Because, look, if HyDra is maybe gettable, you know, you wouldn't imagine that he is, but if Scrap was to leave, then HyDra would absolutely be considering his options and whether he wants to stay on Thieves either for next season. Maybe OpTic need to have a conversation there. So it's something to, because they've wanted him for, you know, they've wanted him before a couple of times. HyDra's never happened. Just something to keep in mind as this roster period continues to get pretty crazy. So big update this evening. We'll see how this goes tomorrow. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.